Navin, it's a great privilege to be able to talk to you today. It's wonderful that you are here, and I must add congratulations for winning the Lifetime Achievement Award from ASEI as well.
I'm absolutely humbled and honored to receive the award. And just it's an absolute pleasure to be talking to fellow engineers and really looking at how the exponential technologies are really going to be the foundations that will allow each one of us to be able to disrupt many of the things that, normally you wake up in the morning and you get pissed off about it, right? Now is the time for us to actually go out and do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me at the outset, what's the secret to your success? And then we'll get talking about your other ventures.
Yeah, so I think honestly, first of all, let's just define what success really means, because I think everybody has a very different idea of what success really means. So to me, the success is defined simply not by how much money you have in the bank, but how many lives you'll be able to improve. And with that definition, I think every one of us has a potential to be extremely successful. And to me, I would say I am barely on the journey, at the beginning of the journey of being successful, right? Have just started, where I really believe one day we could save billions of people not having to suffer through chronic diseases. And to me, it's just the beginning of our journey rather than end of the journey.
That's really audacious goal. And at the same time, I've known you to be a big thinker, and I've seen how you have done a lot of your previous startups. You've transcended industries in your career, starting from the internet technologies, where you were at InfoSpace, where you founded InfoSpace, and then you went on to aerospace industry, Moon Express, and now personalized health and nutrition via Viome. So I just want to understand, how do you do that so rapidly, different industries, and what's your learning style?
I think that's a really, really good question, Piyush, because that is a fundamental to what every one of us should really start to embrace. The first thing is, once you become good at something, once you are an expert at something, you become, I would say, useless. But what I really mean is you become incrementalist. The best you can do is to be 10% better than someone else. You can be 15% better than someone else, but you'll never be 10 times better than someone else once you're an expert. And you really need to come in from outside the industry, looking in, and it's not thinking outside the box, it is thinking in a completely different box, applying the knowledge of the technology from the internet industry, applying them to aerospace, taking that learning, applying that to healthcare, right? And when you do that, you challenge the foundation of what everyone has taken it for granted, and that's how you come up with a completely disruptive idea. And if I may just take 2 minutes, I want to come up with, give you a framework that I found that myself to be very, very useful. And I'm really hoping that everyone listening to it would apply that to everything they do. And it's a framework. Anytime you want to do something, whatever that is in your life, ask yourself, why this? Why now? Why me? And why this is, start with saying, God forbid, I am actually successful in solving this problem. Would it actually improve the life of a billion people, 100 million people, million people, whatever the goal you have? Because you need to really say that if you are successful, is it going to move the needle before you decide to dedicate 10 years of life to do something? Because it doesn't matter what you do, it takes a total dedication for a decade to achieve something audacious. The second part is why now? And why now really means is that what you believe had changed in the last 1 year and what you expect to change in the next couple of years that will allow you to solve this problem now than it was possible a decade ago. If you're going to still be using a technology that was available a decade ago, then you have to believe you're not the smartest guy in the world. Somebody would have actually done it. You have to believe that things are changing at a pace that will allow you to solve this problem now. And the third part really is probably the most important part. Why me? And why me is what question you are asking that is different from what everyone in the industry is asking. That means it is not about knowing all the right answers, it's about asking the right question, because the question you ask is the problem you solve, right? So I'm going to give you 2 examples from my last 2 companies and how I looked at it, right? So in the Moon Express, when we say, can we actually create a multiplanetary society? Because all 7.4 billion fellow humans are living on a single spacecraft. And if our spacecraft gets damaged, the whole humanity will come to an end. It's not about planet won't survive, planet will thrive. In fact, if you look at the last time when we got hit by a large asteroid, the dinosaurs were roaming this world and dinosaurs all died. The planet thrived, planet created humans, planet actually did really well. Now, after, if humans were to die, we don't know. It may create superhumans for all we know. But my point I'm trying to make is that it is not about just us. So anyway, when I started a company, Moon Express, we said we can settle on the moon. What is the first question everyone said? He said, if you're going to live on the moon, how are you going to grow the food on the moon? Right? That is not generally not a bad question, but it is a wrong question, because when you ask someone how to grow the food on the moon, the only solution is to find a way to grow the food. Now, what if you were to ask a slightly different question that says, why do we eat food? Just by asking why we eat food, you realize we eat food only for two reasons: to get energy and to get nutrition. And you say, oh, can I get energy from radiation like bacteria does? Can we get energy from photosynthesis like plants do? And what else can be done to get energy? What are the other ways I can get nutrition? Is it hydrogen? Is it oxygen? Well, there is water. Can we use water to get hydrogen and oxygen? What I'm trying to say, suddenly you have 10 more different ways of solving the problem by simply asking a different question. Same type of things happened when I started Wyoming. In Wyoming, we were really looking at the chronic diseases, and it occurred to me that every single person in the industry is asking the same question. They want to know about the genomics, genes of every human being. They want to also know what microbes are in our gut, because people are starting to realize that gut microbes have something to do with chronic diseases. And I thought, you know what, that is interesting, but your genes don't change when you develop diabetes. Your genes don't change because you gain 200 pounds. Your genes don't change when you become depressed. In fact, your genes don't change any chronic diseases that you develop. So how can a solution lie in the gene? It has to be the gene expression, right? And we say, what if? Instead of looking at the gene, we measure what they are expressing. And to me, it was like, instead of measuring who is there, in your gut, we say, let's find out what they are actually doing. Because if these organisms are like human beings, you could have tens of different organisms doing the same thing, or same organism doing different things in different people's gut. So just by asking a different question, it led us down the path where we are able to completely disrupt this whole healthcare industry that nobody would have believed, or aerospace industry that nobody would have thought of. So that to me is a right framework. And by the way, you can apply that not just to a startup company, you can apply that in your personal life. When you meet someone, you say, why her? Why now? Why me? And you can come up with the same answers.
Wonderful, wonderful framework, Naveen. I love it. I love it. And the examples you gave really bring to life your thinking is so clear and you're so articulate. I love it. And of course, you're a great storyteller. And I really, really loved, I don't know when I read, whether I was reading your moonshot or I saw an interview somewhere where you talked about how there's the gut talks to the brain. You're gonna share a little bit more about that, a little bit.
Yes, of course. So one of the things that obviously, as you can imagine, I'm not a scientist. I don't understand this. So anytime I start a new company in a completely new industry, I actually apply this a very specific way of learning. So if you read one book on that subject, what happens is the author's view becomes your view. So you never want to do that. So you want to read 20 books. So you have now 20 data points of how different people are looking at that problem. And then you create a 21st view, which is your own, by connecting all the dots. And that view actually becomes an Uber view of what every expert has not connected the dots, because everybody is looking at their own dots, right? And you actually, it allows you to connect all the dots. Another thing is, everyone talks about that somehow that, people have this crystal ball. People who succeed, they're able to see what is going to happen in 3-4 years, and that's what makes them successful. In fact, it is a complete misnomer. So here is how I've always found myself to be slightly ahead of what's happening, by simply looking at what is coming out in the academic journal today is what you're going to be seeing 5 years from now in the real world. So when I said, I want to really look at the, in this decade, the chronic diseases. So first thing I did was, let's look at what are the latest cutting edge nature, cell, what are the people talking about, what is causing these diseases. And it turns out everyone was saying that depression is caused by what's happening in your gut, Alzheimer's is caused by what's happening in your gut, Parkinson's starts 15 years before you see the first symptom. It starts in the gut, right? And now I'm looking at all these things people call gut microbiome. I have no idea what gut microbiomes are, but I'm now convinced something's got to be done about this gut microbiome. Then I started to look and say there are 10 companies who are doing the gut microbiome testing. So how can that be a problem? 10 companies looking at it, the problem is not solved. Either I'm a moron or they're asking the wrong question. And then I say, what are these companies actually doing? It turns out every single company was simply looking at what are the organisms in your gut. And they were hoping to figure out if two people have diabetes, this person has this organism, this person this organism, somehow they're going to be able to bring the diabetes people to non-diabetes. And I kept thinking, I said, look, this can't be true. If you look at how many different people can do the same job, what if there are many, many different organisms that are doing the same thing? So by looking at them, it will never solve the problem. The second part that was really interesting was I said, same organisms can do multiple things. So it could, in your gut, maybe doing something that is good. In my gut, it could be doing something totally bad. And it turns out that even though it was a hypothesis, today it turns out to be true. So whether you look at any organism, people like, this organism called Akkermansia, everyone thinks it's a probiotic and you should take it because it's good for you. In fact, it turns out in some people's gut, it becomes really, really pathogenic and it causes multiple cirrhosis. It causes many other diseases. You look at C. diff, it can kill you, or C. diff can actually be really good for you, producing butyrate and short-chain fatty acid. So to me, the key was understanding that our gut and our brain is a bidirectional communication. And what happens in your brain affects the gut, but most importantly, 9 times more signal go up than the signal come down. That means what is happening in your gut actually changes your brain. So today, some very interesting research come out, Piyush, that this gets me excited, that people were able to simply do a fecal transplant. People who had alcohol addiction, and addiction went away. People who were depressed, the depression goes away. People who were anxious, the anxiety goes away, right? And now what we are seeing is even the cancer. If you look inside the cancer, there is microbes inside the tumor. And imagine if you can develop a vaccine that can not only prevent the cancer from happening, it will actually reverse and completely get rid of the cancer when it is there. So one day, if I may just summarize, in the next 10 years, we are going to get rid of cancer. We're going to get rid of the chronic diseases. And our goal really is to look at and creating this world where being sick is truly a matter of choice, not a matter of bad luck. Now, remember the choice of words I'm using. I didn't say we will create a world when there is no one who is sick, because that tells you you have that power. By saying it is optional, I say it is up to you. I will say, Piyush, like when we do a test, we say, Piyush, don't eat broccoli. Broccoli is bad for you because your sulfide production in your gut is too high and it is not good for you. Is spinach that you think is healthy because Popeye told you it is good? Popeye was not the scientist. It is in fact bad for you right now. And it may be good for you 6 months from now. Right now it is bad. And you say, you know what? I'm going to eat my spinach. And that means, you know what? Being sick is a choice. I can't tell you what to do, but you can tell yourself what to do. And that to me is the key, is to say, give everyone a choice of, let them know what is good for them, let them know what is wrong for them, and give them a choice what they want to do with that. And that to me would be the key to the human health, is that each one of us will know what to do and we'll have a choice. Now, if I may just continue on the totally different tangent thought, even if you were to solve all these problems and you say there are no chronic diseases, won't humanity run out of things to do? What will we do if all these problems get solved? And it turns out we will never run out of problems. You are probably too young, Piyush, so I'm going to date you. In my days, people used to dial into the internet using 300 baud modem, right? And that 300 baud modem is how we connected. And you can remember the sound when it connected. That was a sound of joy. You remember, right?
Absolutely. And I have to tell you here, Naveen, you're not dating me, because the very first link video and audio link between one location in India to another location in India. In that very first link, I was involved in that project. I was a telecom engineer at that time. So it was set up for SBI in India with Tata Telecom. So you're not dating me. I totally get it.
So now here's the point I was going to make was, now imagine what we are doing right now. When you and I and everyone else listening to us is communicating, I am using my thoughts, and what am I using? Is speech to communicate to you. That's 300 baud modem, because it doesn't matter how fast I speak, only these many words I can get out per minute. That is the very slow way of communicating. Imagine if my brain can be connected to your brain and everyone else's brain, and we can upload all of our thoughts instantly. Why would you expect a human being to sit in the class for 4 years just to learn some knowledge instead of just uploading the brain, and better yet, subscribing to someone's brain like Piyush? I can subscribe to your brain or Dilip's brain. So every time there is a new thought with Dilip has, I subscribe to his brain, I pay him a monthly fee, and all those new thoughts get uploaded. My brain now gets connected to the cloud. So not just my memory and my phone numbers and everything is now in the cloud. Now I have all my decision making being done by our AI avatars, right? So to me, one day, one other thing that really fascinates me is my mom used to always tell me, you cannot be in two places at the same time. And I kept thinking, why does mom say that all the time? But what makes you think you are in one place? Because our sensors, we call eyes, our ears, our haptic sensors, my touch, and somatosensors, right? All of these things are limited to the local environment. What if my brain can feel when I'm in Atlanta? I can feel, I can see, smell, and touch everybody who's in Dubai. I can feel, touch everybody who's in Bombay. I am in 3 places asynchronously feeling the same thing as if I'm in all 3 different places. And that actually will happen, because to me, there is no limitation. We are so limited by the biological gift we have. We see only a small amount of wavelength. We hear very small amount of wavelength, right? Now imagine if I told you that I'm hearing a Taylor Swift right here, you would say this guy has really gone cuckoo because there is no Taylor Swift playing. And you put a radio and you can hear it. That means sound is here. We just can't hear it. And anyone who can hear it, we think they are a cuckoo, right? But they're not a cuckoo. Yeah. They in fact are super enabled, right?
Yeah, you're talking some things which are science fiction-y, like science fiction. And I'm reminded of something that I saw on perhaps Netflix, Upload. Which talked about how people can be have an afterlife where their entire memories are uploaded. And so the idea of subscription is like as if you're subscribing to a YouTube channel. I really love your examples and your style, Navin. We could go on and on, but I want to make sure we have some questions from the audience as well. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. And I don't see anything. Well, there are people who are expressing they want to be in multiple places. But before we, I see any other interesting question, I would want you to see if you can explain the concept of exponential technologies and the grand challenges and how you support them.
Of course. Yeah, so Piyush, exponential technology, the technology that are accelerating at a pace, and you can say they double every year or they double 18 months, right? So it's a Moore's law is one of the exponential technology that says number of transistors on a silicon would double every 18 months, right? Now, the interesting thing that's happening is we are building the technology on top of the existing technology. So acceleration itself is accelerating, right? And that is really the key. And that thing is really how you start to see what is coming actually in the next couple of years, because the exponential technologies are so disruptive that most people would never even fathom about what that really means, right? So if I were to tell you, Piyush, you have 2 choices. I will give you $1 million right now, or I will give you 1 cent today and I would double it every day. I would double it for 30 days. So you'll get 1 cent today, 2 cents tomorrow, 4 cents next time. Everyone will take $1 million today. And what they don't realize is when you're doubling 1 cent every time, by the time you go day 30, it is a $1 billion, right? So my point is, human mind cannot actually understand. They understand linear. 1 cent, 1 million, I'll take a $1 million right now, right?
Yeah.
But they don't understand when something is doubling, it looks really nothing is happening until it hits the knee of the curve and it just takes off. And people say, oh, where did that come from, right? 3D printing is a great example. People keep talking about, oh my God, 3D printing is so new. It came out of nowhere. Well, it has been 30 years. 30 years. In fact, all of the patents on 3D printing are all expired, right? So my point is because it was so disruptive for, double, and boom, it took off, right? And that happens, by the way, almost every digital technology. And that's the reason I felt the healthcare, the timing was now. To do healthcare right, you have to digitize the human body. And that means you have to be able to take an analog sample, blood, stool, saliva, pick a name you want, and to be able to convert them into digit, ACGT. Once you do that, it follows the path of an exponential curve. Then the cost of processing gets really, really easy. Now you can put them at 1,000 core at AWS, analyze the data really cheaply. Then you can use AI to be able to make sense of all of that. And suddenly the thing that was used to be on a trial and error linear path, now it's gone an exponential path. And today we can not only predict before you have a disease, we can predict 30 different diseases. Just to give you an idea, we are less than 3-year-old company. We can predict just by looking at your saliva that you are going to have a stage 1 oral cancer with 98% accuracy just by looking at saliva. We are doing now trials with GSK on colorectal cancer. We are looking at now in all diseases like Alzheimer, autism. We are looking at disease like diabetes, heart diseases, obesity. So my point is, because once you digitize, it's not one drug, one thing, it takes 10 years. Boom, you have all the data about. Now, since we have analyzed over 250,000 people, Piyush, we have the most amount of data that has ever been collected. Most trials are done on 10,000 people. We have 250,000 people. So we can literally say, here is what causes depression, and here's what we can do. Using food as a medicine, using drug as a medicine, using vaccine as a medicine, to us, it doesn't matter. It is literally a modulate this pathway into this.
Absolutely fascinating. I mean, this is wonderful. And I love this quote from Hippocrates, which said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And that's what you are talking about here. And you have actually
and he also said,
inspired.
all diseases begin in the gut. He said all diseases begin in the gut. So we knew that 2,500 years ago.
Wow. And are you drawing any inspiration from the ancient Indian texts as well? Because as you know, father of plastic surgery was from India, ancient India. And of course, in the modern times now, you have I believe your CTO from Wyoming came from IBM, the head of IBM Watson, and a former colleague of mine. So say hi to him from me. But I want to hear that story, how the ancient wisdom and modern technology, AI technologies, how you are applying in your companies.
So first of all, I think Santosh is hinting us that I think our time might be running too short here. So I don't know how much time do we have, but just to give you an idea, the ancient wisdom never dies. The ancient wisdom has been a trial and error for many, many generations. So it's to give you such a simple idea. In India, we put butter on the bread, the ghee on the bread, right? Or we eat the bread with the butter. Why is that? The carbs have very high glycemic response, but when you put a fat on it, it reduces the glycemic response. And that's the reason we'll put the thing, when we eat carbs, we always put a fat, which is called ghee in it. Now, that is to me something they learned through trial and error. Now, today, I can tell you with a glycemic response that when you have the carb with the fat, it actually reduces the glycemic response. So sure, we can now tell you exactly why and for who. So some people it may not work, and we tell you which people it will not work. For which people banana is bad, which people bread is bad, but they can eat bread all they want, right? So, so my point I'm trying to make is that ancient wisdom was trial and error. Now we can be very, very precise for each individual. We used to do the kappa, pita, and that thing. I mean, now that was a personalized food, and now we can go even more precise, but it is really the same Ayurveda culture of personalizing the food. Absolutely. And someone will tell you, this food is not good for you, right?
Absolutely. And one more thing from Ayurveda, as well as your modern thinking, is the abundance mindset and how meditation medication and microbial things can basically reduce stress and lead to better health. So, Navin, if you can summarize in one sentence message to our audience, what would it be?
First of all, my message would be dream so big that people think you're crazy, and know that you only fail when you give up. So don't ever give up. Continue to pursue your dreams and know that everything is possible.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Back to you, Santosh.